Ladies and gentlemen, if you are enjoying my videos, please click the like button. It is the only way the YouTube algorithm really notices me. I would be very grateful to you. Wronged and Scorned. Revenge is Born. Scary story published by Scare Fiction. Chapter 1. The Haunting Past. The chill of the night seeped through my bones as I trudged along the winding path that led to the abandoned cabin. Each step echoed in the dense forest, amplifying the feeling of isolation that gripped me. I could sense the weight of the past bearing down on my shoulders, a burden I carried with me wherever I went. I am Benjamin Pierce, a man haunted by memories that refuse to fade. The events of that fateful night had left me scarred, both physically and emotionally. As I approached the decrepit cabin, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that washed over me. It was as if the very air around me crackled with unseen energy, a silent warning of the horrors that awaited. The moon cast an eerie glow upon the scene, illuminating the dilapidated structure before me. Its windows were shattered, its wooden walls warped and weathered by years of neglect. Yet, despite its sorry state, there was an undeniable sense of malevolence that hung in the air like a thick fog. I hesitated at the threshold, my heart pounding in my chest. What had driven me to return to this forsaken place? Was it a foolish desire for closure, or something far more sinister? With a trembling hand, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The interior was shrouded in darkness, broken only by slivers of moonlight that filtered through the boarded-up windows. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, mingling with the musty odor of rotting wood. Every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down my spine, each sound magnified in the oppressive silence. As I made my way deeper into the cabin, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, whispering secrets long forgotten. I could feel the weight of their gaze upon me, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within. And then I saw it, a flicker of movement in the corner of the room, fleeting and ephemeral. My breath caught in my throat as I turned to face the source of the disturbance. There, standing amidst the shadows, was a figure cloaked in darkness. I stumbled backwards, my heart pounding in my chest. Was this some trick of the light, or had I stumbled upon something far more sinister? With trembling hands, I reached out to touch the apparition before me, only to recoil as it vanished into thin air. But the memory remained, etched into my mind like a scar upon my soul. It was a reminder of the horrors that had transpired in this cursed place, of the pain and suffering that had left me broken and alone. As I stood there in the darkness, I knew that I could not escape the past. It was a part of me, a shadow that clung to my every step. And though I may try to bury it beneath layers of denial and regret, it would always be there, waiting to consume me whole. With a heavy heart, I turned to leave, the weight of my past bearing down upon me like a leaden shroud. But even as I stepped back out into the night, I knew that this was only the beginning. The horrors that awaited me were far from over, and the ghosts of the past would not rest until they had claimed their final revenge. Chapter 2. Unexplained Phenomena. The days since my return from the cabin had been plagued by restless nights and unshakable dread. Each time I closed my eyes, I was haunted by visions of that spectral figure, its eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. But it was not just in my dreams that the horrors persisted. They followed me into the waking world as well. As I went about my daily routine, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows seemed to dance at the edges of my vision, disappearing as soon as I turned to face them. It was as if the very air around me was alive with malevolent energy, waiting to pounce at the slightest provocation. But it was not just the sense of impending doom that troubled me. Friends and acquaintances would whisper behind my back, exchanging concerned glances whenever I passed by. Some would even go so far as to avoid me altogether, as if my mere presence was enough to invite misfortune. It was during one such encounter that I first encountered the doubters. Sarah, a longtime friend and confidant, pulled me aside one evening with a worried expression on her face. "Benjamin, I'm worried about you," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "Ever since you came back from that cabin, you haven't been yourself." I tried to reassure her, to convince her that I was fine, but she would have none of it. "I've heard the rumors," she continued, her eyes darting nervously around the room. "People are saying that you've lost your mind, that you're seeing things that aren't there." I tried to brush off her concerns, to laugh them off as mere gossip, but deep down, I knew that she was right. The encounters with the supernatural had taken their toll on my sanity, leaving me teetering on the brink of madness. But Sarah was not the only one who doubted me. Everywhere I went, I could feel the weight of their skepticism bearing down upon me, a constant reminder of my own fragility. It was as if they could sense the darkness that lurked within, the same darkness that had driven me to seek revenge against the vengeful spirit. And so, I delved deeper into my past, searching for answers that would explain the source of the spirit's anger. I combed through old journals and newspaper clippings, piecing together fragments of memories long forgotten. And with each revelation, the truth became clearer. The spirit was not merely a figment of my imagination, but a manifestation of a past injustice that demanded to be avenged. But even as I uncovered the truth, I knew that the battle was far from over. The vengeful spirit still lurked in the shadows, waiting for its chance to strike. And as the days passed and the tension mounted, I realized that I would need to confront it head-on if I ever hoped to find peace. Chapter 3: Research and Revelation. The dusty shelves of the local library loomed before me as I entered, a labyrinth of forgotten knowledge waiting to be unearthed. It was here, amidst the musty scent of old books and the gentle hum of fluorescent lights, that I hoped to find the answers I sought. With determination fueling my every step, I made my way to the occult section, where rows upon rows of ancient tomes awaited my perusal. As I sifted through the pages, my fingers tracing the faded words of long-dead authors, I felt a sense of urgency building within me. I knew that time was of the essence, that every moment wasted brought me one step closer to the brink of oblivion. And so, I delved into the history of the location, scouring old newspapers and historical records for any mention of the cabin and its dark past. It was a tedious task, fraught with dead ends and false leads, but I refused to be deterred. I knew that the key to unlocking the mystery lay buried somewhere within these dusty archives, waiting to be discovered. As the hours turned into days, and the days into weeks, I began to uncover clues that tied the vengeful spirit to my own past. It was a chilling revelation, one that sent shivers down my spine and set my heart racing with fear. The spirit was not some random specter haunting a forgotten cabin. It was a manifestation of my own guilt and remorse, a twisted reflection of the darkness that lurked within my soul. But even as the truth began to unfold before me, I found myself unable to turn away. The desire for revenge burned within me like a raging inferno, consuming everything in its path. I knew that others had warned me against pursuing this course of action, that they saw only danger and madness in my quest for vengeance. But I refused to listen to their words of caution. I was determined to see this through to the bitter end. And so, armed with newfound knowledge and unwavering resolve, I set out to confront the vengeful spirit once and for all. I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril, that the darkness would only grow stronger the closer I came to my goal. But I was prepared to face whatever horrors awaited me, to sacrifice everything in the name of justice. For I knew that only by confronting the darkness within myself could I hope to find the redemption I so desperately sought. And as I embarked on this perilous journey, I knew that the fate of not only myself, but all those who had been touched by the vengeful spirit hung in the balance. Chapter 4. Confronting Demons. The night was thick with tension as I stood before the looming presence of the vengeful spirit, my heart pounding in my chest. Its form flickered and shifted before me, a swirling mass of darkness and despair that seemed to draw strength from the very depths of the abyss. But as I faced this malevolent entity, I knew that the true battle lay not in the physical realm, but within the depths of my own soul. For the vengeful spirit was not merely a manifestation of my past sins. It was a reflection of the darkness that lurked within me, a reminder of the pain and suffering I had inflicted upon others. With a trembling hand, I reached out to confront my inner demons, to confront the guilt and remorse that threatened to consume me whole. Memories flooded my mind, each one more painful than the last, as I relived the horrors of my past. I saw the faces of those I had wronged, their accusing eyes burning with anger and betrayal. I heard their cries of anguish echoing in the darkness, a haunting refrain that followed me wherever I went. And with each passing moment, the weight of my sins grew heavier, threatening to drag me down into the depths of despair. But even as I confronted my own demons, the vengeful spirit continued to press its attack, its assaults growing more aggressive and personal with each passing moment. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes that seemed to mock my every move. And then it spoke. Its voice was a whisper in the darkness, a chilling echo that sent shivers down my spine. "You cannot hide from me, Benjamin," it hissed, its words dripping with malice. "I know what you have done, and I will not rest until you have paid for your sins." But I refused to back down. With every ounce of strength remaining within me, I stood my ground, facing the spirit with a steely resolve that bordered on madness. For I knew that the only way to defeat the darkness that threatened to consume me was to confront it head-on, to face the truth of my own actions and accept the consequences. And so, with a primal scream of defiance, I unleashed the full force of my fury upon the vengeful spirit, driving it back with a ferocity born of desperation. Shadows recoiled before me, writhing and twisting in agony as they were consumed by the light of my resolve. But even as I emerged victorious, I knew that the battle was far from over. The vengeful spirit may have been defeated for now, but its presence lingered like a lingering shadow, a constant reminder of the darkness that still lurked within me. And as I stood amidst the ruins of my own shattered psyche, I knew that the true test of my strength had only just begun. For the road ahead would be fraught with peril and uncertainty, with dangers lurking around every corner. But I was determined to face whatever horrors awaited me, to confront my inner demons and emerge victorious, no matter the cost. Chapter 5. Allies and Enemies. In the aftermath of my confrontation with the vengeful spirit, I found myself seeking solace in the company of others who had shared similar encounters. It was a motley crew of individuals, each with their own connection to the darkness that lurked within the shadows. Among them was Emily, a young woman whose family had been torn apart by the vengeful spirit's wrath. Her eyes burned with a fierce determination as she recounted the horrors she had witnessed, her voice trembling with anger and grief. And then there was James, a grizzled veteran of the supernatural who had dedicated his life to hunting down creatures of the night. His rugged exterior belied a keen intelligence and a razor-sharp wit, but beneath his bravado lurked a darkness that hinted at a troubled past. Together, we formed an unlikely alliance, bound together by our shared goal of defeating the vengeful spirit once and for all. But even as we joined forces, tensions simmered beneath the surface, threatening to tear us apart from within. It began with subtle whispers and furtive glances, as doubts and suspicions crept into our midst like a poison ivy. Some questioned the validity of our mission, arguing that the vengeful spirit was nothing more than a figment of our imagination. Others harbored darker motives, seeking to exploit our vulnerabilities for their own gain. But amidst the chaos and confusion, one thing became clear. The vengeful spirit was not content to simply fade into the shadows. Its attacks grew more frequent and more vicious, as if it sensed our growing desperation and sought to exploit it for its own twisted amusement. And so, as tensions reached a boiling point, betrayals and conflicts erupted among our group, threatening to tear us apart from within. Friend turned against friend, as loyalties were tested and alliances fractured under the weight of suspicion and mistrust. But through it all, I struggled to maintain my sanity, to distinguish friend from foe amidst the chaos and confusion. For I knew that the true battle lay not in the physical realm, but within the depths of our own souls. And as the vengeful spirit continued to press its attacks, I knew that only by standing together could we hope to emerge victorious against the darkness that threatened to consume us all. Chapter 6: Into the Abyss. The air was thick with tension as our group ventured deeper into the heart of darkness, our footsteps echoing in the cavernous depths of the abandoned mine. It was here, amidst the crumbling ruins and oppressive darkness, that the vengeful spirit had chosen to make its final stand. With each passing step, the weight of our mission pressed down upon us like a leaden shroud, threatening to crush us beneath its suffocating embrace. But we refused to be deterred, our resolve hardened by the knowledge that the fate of countless lives hung in the balance. But the vengeful spirit was not content to simply let us pass unchallenged. As we pressed forward, we encountered obstacles and traps cunningly laid out to thwart our progress. Pitfalls yawned open before us, their depths shrouded in darkness and despair. Walls of solid rock rose up to block our path, their surfaces slick with moisture and age. But even as we struggled to overcome these obstacles, the true battle raged within our own minds. For the vengeful spirit knew our deepest fears and regrets, and it sought to exploit them for its own twisted amusement. As we pressed forward, the darkness seemed to close in around us, suffocating us with its oppressive weight. Shadows danced at the edge of our vision, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes that mirrored our own deepest fears and regrets. For me, it was the memory of that fateful night, the night that had torn my family apart and left me scarred and broken. I could hear their cries echoing in the darkness, a haunting refrain that followed me wherever I went. And with each passing moment, the guilt and remorse threatened to consume me whole, dragging me down into the depths of despair. But even as I struggled to confront my own demons, I knew that I could not falter. For the lives of my friends and loved ones hung in the balance, their fates intertwined with my own. And so, with a steely resolve born of desperation, I pressed forward, determined to overcome whatever obstacles lay in our path. And as we ventured deeper into the abyss, I knew that the true test of our strength lay ahead. For the vengeful spirit waited in the darkness, its eyes burning with an otherworldly fire as it prepared to unleash its final assault. But we were not afraid, for we knew that together we could overcome even the darkest of horrors and emerge victorious against the darkness that threatened to consume us all. Chapter 7. Descent into Madness. As we ventured deeper into the spirit's realm, I could feel my grip on reality beginning to slip like sand through my fingers. The boundaries between dream and reality blurred, leaving me trapped in a nightmarish landscape of twisted shadows and haunting visions. Haunting whispers echoed in the darkness, their words twisting and warping into grotesque shapes that danced before my eyes. I tried to shut them out, to block out the voices that whispered of my failures and shortcomings, but they persisted, relentless in their torment. And then the visions began. Images flashed before my eyes, a kaleidoscope of memories and nightmares that threatened to overwhelm me. I saw the faces of those I had wronged, their accusing eyes burning with anger and betrayal. I heard their cries echoing in the darkness, a haunting refrain that followed me wherever I went. But it was the flashbacks to the past event that haunted me the most, the memories that had shaped me into the broken and guilt-ridden person I had become. I saw the events of that fateful night unfold before me, each moment etched into my mind like a scar upon my soul. I saw myself standing amidst the wreckage, my hands stained with blood and tears as I searched for any sign of life amidst the chaos. I heard the screams of my loved ones as they cried out for help, their voices drowned out by the deafening roar of destruction. And then I saw it, the moment that had changed everything, that had torn my family apart and left me broken and alone. I saw the face of the vengeful spirit, its eyes burning with an otherworldly fire as it unleashed its fury upon us. But even as the memories threatened to consume me whole, I knew that I could not falter. For the lives of my friends and loved ones hung in the balance, their fates intertwined with my own. And so, with every ounce of strength remaining within me, I pressed forward, determined to overcome whatever obstacles lay in our path. But the darkness was relentless, its grip tightening around me with each passing moment. I could feel my sanity slipping away, like water through my fingers, leaving me adrift in a sea of madness and despair. And as I descended further into the depths of my own mind, I knew that the true battle lay not in the physical realm, but within the darkest recesses of my soul. For it was there, amidst the ruins of my shattered psyche, that I would confront the truth of my own guilt and trauma, and emerge stronger than ever before. Chapter 8. Bargaining with the Unknown. As the darkness closed in around me, I found myself standing before the vengeful spirit, its form swirling and shifting before my eyes. Its eyes burned with an otherworldly fire, and I could feel the weight of its gaze bearing down upon me like a suffocating blanket. With a trembling hand, I reached out to confront the spirit, to make one final desperate plea for peace. "Please," I begged, my voice barely a whisper in the oppressive silence. "We cannot continue like this. The cycle of revenge must end." But the spirit remained unmoved, its gaze cold and unforgiving. "You dare to bargain with me, mortal?" It hissed, its voice dripping with contempt. "You, who have caused so much pain and suffering, what could you possibly offer that would appease my wrath?" I swallowed hard, steeling myself for what was to come. "I offer myself," I said, my voice trembling with fear and desperation. "Take me and spare the others. Let them go free, and I will bear whatever punishment you see fit." For a moment, the spirit seemed to consider my offer, its eyes narrowing in thought. And then, with a cruel smile, it spoke. "Very well, mortal," it said, its voice dripping with malice. "I accept your offer. But know this, even if you sacrifice yourself, the cycle of revenge will never truly end. For as long as there is hatred and resentment in the hearts of men, I will always have a foothold in this world." With those words, the spirit vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone in the oppressive silence. And as I stood there, trembling and alone, I knew that the true battle had only just begun. For even as I had made my desperate bargain with the vengeful spirit, doubts lingered in the back of my mind. Could such a creature ever be truly appeased? Or would it demand even more bloodshed in its insatiable quest for vengeance? As I wrestled with these thoughts, I was overcome by a sense of profound despair. Had I made a terrible mistake in offering myself up as a sacrifice? Would my actions only serve to prolong the suffering of those I loved? But even as doubt threatened to consume me, a small glimmer of hope flickered in the darkness. For I knew that as long as there was even the slightest chance of redemption, I would continue to fight, to strive for peace in a world consumed by darkness. And so, with a heavy heart and a determined spirit, I vowed to press forward, to face whatever horrors awaited me with courage and resolve. For I knew that the true measure of a man was not in his ability to avoid suffering, but in his willingness to confront it head-on, no matter the cost. Chapter 9. The Final Showdown. The tension in the air was palpable as I stood face to face with the vengeful spirit, the weight of its gaze bearing down upon me like a suffocating blanket. This was it, the moment I had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. The final showdown between good and evil, between redemption and damnation. With a defiant roar, I launched myself at the spirit, my fists pounding against its incorporeal form with all the fury and determination I could muster. But it was like striking at shadows, my blows passing harmlessly through the swirling mass of darkness that surrounded me. The spirit laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You cannot defeat me, mortal," it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "I am eternal, unyielding. I am the darkness that lurks in the hearts of men, the whisper of despair that haunts their dreams." But I refused to be cowed by its words. With a primal scream of defiance, I redoubled my efforts, channeling every ounce of strength and resolve into my attacks. And as I fought, I could feel something stirring within me, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. With each blow I struck, the spirit seemed to waver, its form flickering and fading like a dying ember. And then, with a final burst of energy, I unleashed the full fury of my wrath upon it, driving it back with a force born of desperation. But even as I fought, I knew that this was not enough. The vengeful spirit was too powerful, too entrenched in the darkness that surrounded us. If I was to have any hope of victory, I would need to confront my deepest fears and make the ultimate sacrifice. With a heavy heart, I closed my eyes and let the memories flood over me, each one more painful than the last. I saw the faces of those I had wronged, their accusing eyes burning with anger and betrayal. I heard their cries echoing in the darkness, a haunting refrain that followed me wherever I went. But amidst the pain and despair, I also saw glimpses of hope, of redemption. I saw the faces of my loved ones, their smiles lighting up the darkness like beacons of hope. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. With a steely resolve, I made my decision. I would confront the darkness within myself, the guilt and remorse that threatened to consume me whole. And in doing so, I would make the ultimate sacrifice, laying down my life so that others might live free from the specter of the vengeful spirit's wrath. With a final, defiant roar, I launched myself at the spirit, my body ablaze with righteous fury. And as our forms collided in a whirlwind of light and shadow, I felt a sense of peace wash over me, knowing that I had finally found redemption in the face of darkness. Chapter 10. Redemption or Damnation. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded into the night, I found myself standing amidst the ruins of the final confrontation, my body battered and bruised, but my spirit unbroken. Around me, my allies lay strewn about like discarded toys, their bodies broken and bloodied, but their resolve unwavering. But despite our victory over the vengeful spirit, the aftermath of the final confrontation left us reeling, grappling with the consequences of our actions and the toll it had taken on our souls. For though we had emerged triumphant, the scars of battle ran deep, both physical and emotional. As I surveyed the carnage around me, I couldn't help but feel a sense of profound sadness wash over me. So many lives had been lost in the struggle against the darkness, so much pain and suffering endured in the name of justice. And yet, despite it all, I knew that our fight was far from over. For, even as we stood on the precipice of victory, hints of darker forces still lurked in the shadows, whispering of doom and despair. I could feel their presence, like a weight upon my shoulders, a chilling reminder of the fragility of our victory. But amidst the darkness, there were also glimpses of hope, tiny sparks of light that shone like beacons in the night. I saw it in the faces of my allies, their eyes burning with determination and resolve. I saw it in the faces of the survivors, their smiles lighting up the darkness like stars in the sky. And in that moment, I knew that though the road ahead would be fraught with peril and uncertainty, we would face it together, united in our quest for redemption. For even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, always a chance for a brighter tomorrow. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose and resolve, we set out into the unknown, ready to confront whatever horrors awaited us with courage and determination. For though the path ahead would be long and treacherous, we knew that as long as we stood together, we would emerge victorious against the darkness that threatened to consume us all. Chapter 11. The Lingering Shadow. The sun had set on the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape as we made our way back from the site of our final confrontation with the vengeful spirit. Despite our victory, there was an air of unease that hung heavy in the air, a sense of lingering dread that refused to dissipate. As we trudged through the darkened forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that unseen eyes followed our every move with malicious intent. It was as if the darkness itself had taken on a life of its own, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes that seemed to mock our very existence. But even as we pressed forward, determined to put the horrors of the past behind us, signs of the vengeful spirit's presence lingered like a lingering shadow. Strange occurrences plagued our journey home, as if the spirit's malevolent influence still held sway over the world around us. Trees twisted and warped, as if bent by unseen hands, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers grasping for purchase. Shadows danced at the edge of our vision, whispering secrets that sent shivers down our spines. And in the distance, we could hear the faint echoes of laughter, chilling and cruel, as if mocking our every move. Despite our best efforts to ignore these signs, they continued to haunt us at every turn, a constant reminder of the darkness that still lurked within the shadows. And as we struggled to make sense of the inexplicable events unfolding around us, a new threat emerged, one more insidious and terrifying than anything we had faced before. It began with whispers, rumors of a new terror lurking in the depths of the forest, a creature of darkness that preyed upon the souls of the unwary. At first, we dismissed these tales as nothing more than superstition, the ramblings of frightened villagers seeking to make sense of the inexplicable. But as the days passed and the whispers grew louder, we could no longer deny the truth. The vengeful spirit may have been defeated, but its influence still lingered like a foul stench, poisoning the land and corrupting all who dared to tread upon it. And so, as we prepared to face this new threat head-on, I couldn't help but wonder whether our victory over the vengeful spirit had truly been a triumph, or merely a temporary reprieve from the darkness that threatened to consume us all. For though we had emerged victorious in battle, the war against evil raged on, its outcome uncertain and its consequences far-reaching. But even in the face of uncertainty, I knew that we could not afford to lose hope. For as long as there were those willing to stand against the darkness, there would always be a glimmer of light to guide us through the night, illuminating the path to a brighter tomorrow. Chapter 12. Epilogue Echoes of the Past. Years had passed since the final confrontation with the vengeful spirit, yet its presence lingered like a shadow over my every waking moment. Time had dulled the sharp edges of memory, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare, but some wounds never truly heal. As I stood on the wind-swept cliffs overlooking the ocean, I couldn't help but feel a sense of profound sadness wash over me. So much had changed since that fateful night, so many lives lost and sacrifices made in the name of justice. And yet, despite it all, the specter of the vengeful spirit still haunted my dreams, a reminder of the darkness that lurked within the shadows. But even as I grappled with my own demons, a sense of peace began to settle over me, like a warm blanket on a cold winter's night. For though the scars of battle would always remain, I had finally come to terms with my past, accepting the mistakes I had made and the pain I had caused. And as I looked toward the future, I felt a glimmer of hope stir within me, a sense of possibility and renewal that had long been absent from my life. For though the road ahead would be fraught with uncertainty, I knew that as long as I held on to hope, I would never truly be alone. But just as I began to embrace the newfound peace that had settled over me, a chill wind blew in from the sea, carrying with it whispers of a darkness long thought vanquished. And as I turned to face the horizon, I saw it, a flicker of movement in the distance, a shadow lurking in the depths of the ocean. My heart skipped a beat as I realized what it meant. The vengeful spirit had returned, its thirst for revenge as insatiable as ever. And though I knew that the battle against evil would never truly be won, I also knew that I would never stop fighting, no matter the cost. And so, as I stood on the wind-swept cliffs, gazing out at the darkening sky, I made a silent vow to myself. I would never give up hope, never surrender to the darkness that threatened to consume me. For though the vengeful spirit may have returned, I would face it head-on with courage and determination, ready to confront whatever horrors awaited me in the shadows.